When referees get straight up bodied, the Tom Castor story. Who is Tom Castor? How did he get bodied? Why is it unusual? And what happens to him now? Stay tuned to learn more. Hey everybody, Dr. Chris, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine physician. Welcome to my channel, your #1 source for information on orthopedics and broken bones. It's easy to understand for everybody. And I do mean everybody.
Okay.
If you want to know more about my life as an orthopedic surgeon, be sure to follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Stable Knees. I'm also on TikTok at Dr. Raynor. If you're looking for workouts, exercises, or information on injury prevention, be sure to check us out on our sister channel on YouTube, Human 2.0. And of course, I'm on a mission to teach everybody about orthopedics and sports medicine. Help me accomplish this goal by sharing this video with everybody who you think might be interested in this content. And of course, be sure to stick around to the end of the video for the Sparks Notes summary. That being said, hit the notification bell and let's get on with the topic of the day. So who is Tom Castor anyway? Now, not watching wrestling regularly myself, that is exactly the question that I asked myself when I heard his name. Tom Castor is an American professional wrestling referee currently signed to the World Wrestling Entertainment's developmental brand, NXT. And as one wrestling fan put it to Joe Coleman of TalkSport.com, he is the biggest badass in wrestling. For real. Tom is a man that is dedicated to his craft. He is a true entertainer. He is a man that wholly believes in the old adage, the show must go on. But to be specific, Castor is the wrestling referee who suffered an injury, a very serious injury I might add, on April 25th, 2019. While refereeing an NXT live event in Omaha, Nebraska between the Velveteen Dream and Tyler Breeze, Tom Castor was seriously injured. He was injured badly enough that the praise for him and his actions on social media has been extensive. Former WWE referee and current WWE producer Scott Armstrong said of Tom, and I quote, "Our NXT WWE ref Tom Castor, WWE, broke his leg last night. Still counted 3 and then threw up the X for himself. Shout out to Tom for being a true pro and keeping his focus. Hashtag reffing ain't easy. Hashtag speedy recovery Tom." During the match, wrestler Tyler Breeze attempted a super kick on fellow wrestler, the Velveteen Dream. That makes me think of cookies somehow. You know, like, I'm not exactly sure why, but it makes me think of cookies. Unfortunately, Tom Castor happened to be standing behind the Velveteen Dream when Breeze attempted this move. Tom himself was knocked backward, but there was one problem. Tom had been moving forward at the time that he was knocked off his feet. His left foot was planted as he fell backwards to his left-hand side. This movement caused Tom to internally rotate his body over his planted left foot, which was already externally rotated. This just means that his body was turned to the right when his foot was angled to the left. Unfortunately, the ankle is not designed to work this way. The ankle is the joint that is created when the tibia and the fibula come together to enclose the talus at the mortise. What did I just say? The mortise is basically the space that is commonly known as the ankle. The term mortise stems from the phrase mortise and tenon joint that connects two pieces of wood or of other material. Here, the talus behaves like the tenon, while the tibia and the fibula behave like the mortise. The ankle is a hinge joint that is capable of both dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion describes the ankle position where the foot and the toes are pointed upwards, whereas plantar flexion describes the position where the foot and the toes are pointed downwards. Because the top of the talus is saddle-shaped, the ankle can tolerate a small degree of internal and external rotation at the mortise, in addition to the plantar flexion and the dorsiflexion that is available. However, the degree of rotation is limited, and it is most marked when the ankle is in plantar flexion. Here, the degree of rotation that occurred at the ankle when Tom fell backward was beyond that which the ankle could tolerate. Bones are absolutely fantastic in compression, but they absolutely suck in rotation. And this just means that bones work very well when you apply forces to them along their long axis. But the moment that you twist them, you got a problem. Unfortunately for Tom, he suffered an external rotation pronation injury to his left ankle. And this mechanism just describes the two movements that were required to produce this fracture pattern. This mechanism resulted in a fracture dislocation of his left ankle. In an interview, Tom stated that he had fractured 3 bones in his ankle.
And when I went backwards, I broke my ankle and all 3 bones in it.
This would imply that he had suffered a trimalleolar fracture where there are 3 bones involved. This would include the distal tibia on the inside part of his ankle, or the medial malleolus, the distal fibula on the outside part of his ankle, or the lateral malleolus, and the distal tibia on the back side of his ankle, or the posterior malleolus. All 3 of these areas were involved in this fracture. This is a fracture pattern that is frequently seen with this type of injury mechanism. Usually, we'll see an oblique fracture of the fibula, a transverse fracture of the medial malleolus, and a short oblique fracture of the posterior malleolus, which extends into the joint. In the video, we can see that Tom suffers an injury to his left ankle that results in a gross deformity. And by gross deformity, I don't mean an injury that might make you throw up, although it might, but rather an injury that is easily visible to the naked eye. And this just means that the ankle is pointing in a direction that Tom would rather it not. A direction that most definitely does not look normal. This is how we can tell that the injury involves, at the very least, a dislocation, if not also a fracture. We can see that since his foot and his ankle remain in an awkward position once Tom is on the ground, we know that there has not been a spontaneous reduction of the dislocation. It is not possible at this time to know whether the fracture is open, or in other words, compound, rather than closed, because we cannot see the skin. But we can see that Tom is going to need some orthopedic assistance in the very near future. Go ortho. One of the most amazing things about this injury is that, although quite painful, it did not distract Tom from the job at hand. Tom carried on refereeing the match from the canvas as if nothing had happened. In fact, he still managed to make the 3 count like a freaking boss. It was only after the match was over that he turned his attention back to his lower extremity and the gruesome injury that he had suffered. He was attended to by the ringside staff and helped from the ring. To be honest, the first time that I saw the clip of this injury, I was not sure what I was looking at. A viewer had recently asked me to review an injury video that they had sent to me. I watched the video concentrating totally on the 2 wrestlers that were involved. It wasn't until after the match was over and I saw the referee still laying on the canvas that I realized that it was he who was injured and not the 2 wrestlers. Yeah, it was kind of strange. So why was Tom Castor's injury so unusual? The injury mechanism itself was relatively standard with a well-recognized pattern. An ankle fracture dislocation suffered as a result of an external rotation pronation injury mechanism on a planted foot. Standard stuff. The injury pattern itself was also relatively common. A displaced trimalleolar or 3-part ankle fracture dislocation. Again, nothing unusual. But what made this injury so unusual was that here, the injury had occurred not to the actual wrestlers themselves, which is common, but rather to the 3rd man in the ring, the referee. And this is not to say that the referee is immune from injury. Far from it. Referee bumps have long been a part of professional wrestling. But usually it is the wrestlers themselves that are most at risk of serious injuries because they are the ones that are most directly involved in the physical contest. Serious injury involving a referee is much less frequent and generally it is not expected to occur. But of course, accidents do happen and sometimes the storyline goes off script. As Scott Armstrong pointed out, hashtag reffing ain't easy. So what happened to Tom afterwards? Although I couldn't find any information detailing exactly what happened to Tom after his injury, it is likely that he underwent surgical fixation of his fracture. Typically, a fracture of this pattern would be stabilized with an open reduction and internal fixation of the fracture fragments. This is usually performed using a 2-incision technique with 1 incision medially on the inside part of the ankle and a 2nd incision laterally on the outside part of the ankle. The medial, or the inside part of the ankle, would usually be fixed with screws alone. The lateral side, on the other hand, would usually be fixed with both screws and plates. Normally, the posterior fragment would not require fixation unless it were significantly large or remained displaced after fixation of the other 2 fragments. However, if it did require fixation, it could be fixed using an anterior to posterior, meaning front to back screw if it was small, or a plate and screws placed posteriorly, meaning in the back, if it were large. After an extended period of time convalescing after his injury, Tom Castor recently posted on Twitter that he had been medically cleared to return back to the ring. Tom made his return as a referee the following day on February 26, 2020. And to that, all I can say is, welcome back, Tom. I know that there are plenty of people who are happy to have you back in the ring, brother. And now for the Sparks Notes summary. Who? Tom Castor, NXT WWE referee extraordinaire and all-around badass. What? Drop kick to the face during an NXT match and severely smoked his ankle. When? April 25th, 2019, returned to the ring 10 months later, February 26th, 2020. Where? Omaha, Nebraska at the NXT live event. And finally, why? Yo, I have no freaking clue, man. Why would anybody want that? One thing is apparent though. As Castor said to fellow referee Drake Wirtz on the evening that he injured himself, Tom truly does love the business. If you know of a referee that's been injured during a wrestling match or any other sporting event, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Send me a link to the video as well. Thanks for watching. As always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris, not your everyday ortho.
Just a flesh wound.